The Father I Never Knew audiobook introduction. This book is a journey of love, loss, resilience, and understanding. A story that, in many ways, is not just about me, but about the woman who raised me. It's a story of the silent strength of a mother who carried more than just the weight of raising a child on her own. It's a story of my mother, the woman who gave me life, nurtured me, and taught me what it means to fight, to love, and to never give up. For as long as I can remember, there was one question that shaped much of my life. Why wasn't my father there? I grew up wondering about the man who was missing from my world, the man whose absence created so many unanswered questions. But as I reflect on this journey, I realize that in many ways, it wasn't just the absence of my father that shaped me, it was the presence of my mother. She was both mother and father to me, the one who taught me that love and strength aren't defined by who is absent, but by who is present, by who chooses to stay. This is my attempt to write my mother's story, through my eyes as her daughter, and to honor the sacrifices she made for me. It is not always an easy story to tell, and I know that in the telling of it, there will be moments of pain, confusion, and unresolved questions. But through it all, my purpose is simple: to recognize the depth of her love, the quiet sacrifices she made, and the strength she showed in raising me on her own. As I share this story, I want to acknowledge my journey as well, one of coming to terms with the complexities of my upbringing, learning to understand my mother's choices, and ultimately coming to see the beautiful, intricate layers of our bond. This story is as much about my healing as it is about hers. It's about honoring her, understanding her, and finding peace with the parts of our story that were broken. This is a daughter's tribute to her mother. It's a love letter, a thank you, and an acknowledgement of everything that came before me. It's a story about the power of resilience and the quiet strength that mothers like mine carry every day, often without recognition. And it's a reminder that the love of a mother is the most enduring and powerful force we'll ever know. I hope, as you read this, you'll understand that this is more than just a recounting of events. It's a testament to the love, sacrifice, and strength of the woman who gave me life. This book is not just a reflection on the absence of my father, but also a celebration of the woman who stepped in to fill that gap. In the quiet moments when I questioned my worth and wondered about the man I never knew, it was my mother's love that reminded me that I was enough. It was her unwavering support and tireless efforts to provide for me, protect me, and show me what it meant to live a life full of grace and resilience. Through the years, I came to realize that the strength I saw in her was not just born of circumstance, it was a choice she made every single day. I often asked myself, what would have been different if my father had been there? Would my life have been easier? But over time, I began to understand that the love my mother gave me, the guidance she offered, and the strength she embodied were more than enough. In her way, she filled every role that needed to be filled. She was my protector, my provider, my mentor, and my friend. And even in the moments where I wished for something more, something different, I couldn't deny the depth of her love for me. As I share this story, I also realize that it is not just about my mother's journey, but about the healing of our relationship. The silence, the unspoken words, the untold truths. This book is my attempt to bring them into the light, to understand the complexities of our lives and the love that was woven through it all. I hope that through this process, I can honor her in a way that words alone cannot express, and in doing so, begin to heal the parts of me that have always wondered and longed for answers. This story is a way for me to express the gratitude I never fully articulated, the understanding I now possess, and the love I want to give back. It's a way for me to acknowledge the many roles she played in my life, roles that, at times, may have gone unappreciated or unnoticed, but that shaped me into the person I am today. So this book is not just for me, it's for her. For the mother who, despite everything she faced, never stopped loving me. For the woman who made sure that no matter what was missing, I would never be without the love I needed to grow. And for the girl who once wondered if she was enough. This book is a reminder that she always was, a tribute to my mother. To the woman who gave me life, to the woman who shaped my world and my heart, this is my tribute to you, my mother. Words cannot truly capture the depth of my gratitude, the depth of my love for you. You were and always will be my foundation, my guide, my hero. You gave me the gift of life, yes, but more than that, you gave me the gift of unwavering love, endless sacrifice, and quiet strength that never faltered, no matter the storms we faced. I see now, more than ever, the weight you carried alone, how you stood tall in the face of challenges that would have broken many, how you nurtured me with love, even when the world tried to pull you apart. You never once let me feel the absence of a father, though I know the burden was yours to bear. You were both mother and father to me, the one who made sure I was always safe, always cared for, always loved. And when I questioned my worth, you were the one who reminded me that I was enough, just as I was. You held me close when I cried, wiped away my tears, and reassured me that I was never alone. Your love never wavered, it never grew tired, even when you had nothing left to give. You were always there. In those quiet moments when I was confused, angry, or sad, you taught me the power of forgiveness, the importance of compassion, and the beauty of resilience. You showed me what it means to truly love, without hesitation, without conditions, and without doubt. You gave me the courage to be who I am, to stand strong in my own light, even in moments of uncertainty. I know now that the path you walked wasn't always easy, and that you made sacrifices I may never fully understand. But I also know that you did it all with grace and love, never asking for anything in return. You carried the weight of the world, yet never once did you let me see you falter. This tribute is for you, for the countless ways you have shaped my life and my heart, for every quiet moment of sacrifice, for every sleepless night, for every prayer you whispered on my behalf. I am forever grateful. I may not have always understood the struggles you faced, but I see now the strength it took to be the mother you were and are to me. You are the heart of our family, the soul of my existence, and the love that has carried me through every trial. Thank you for being the light in my life, the love that never ended, and the mother who gave me everything. I am who I am because of you. There are so many moments, too many to count, where I felt the weight of your love in ways I didn't understand until much later. Your strength was woven into the fabric of my everyday life, whether it was in the way you protected me, the way you encouraged me to pursue my dreams, or the way you always believed in me, even when I couldn't believe in myself. I remember the nights you stayed up with me when I couldn't sleep, your comforting words, a soft lullaby in the darkness. I remember the sacrifices you made so I could have more than what you had growing up, the quiet sacrifices that went unnoticed by the world, but not by me. You never asked for recognition. You never expected applause. You simply loved, endlessly and without question. There were times I didn't see it, times I was too young, too filled with my own questions and pain to understand the weight of your quiet battles. But now I see you clearly, not just as my mother, but as a woman who carried burdens with grace, who faced the impossible with a fierce love that only a mother could give. I see the years of heartache, the moments of doubt, and the way you held it all together for me, never letting me see the cracks in your heart. In my hardest moments, when I felt like the world was too much to bear, it was your love that kept me going. It was your belief in me that pulled me from the darkest places, reminding me that I was never truly alone. Even when I felt lost, I always had you, your love, your wisdom, your strength, and it was enough to guide me back. I am so deeply thankful for the way you loved me. You taught me that love doesn't require perfection. It's not about always getting it right or never making mistakes. It's about showing up every day, giving what you have, and never giving up. Your love wasn't about grand gestures or words, it was in the little things, in your actions, in the way you showed up for me in ways no one else could. And as I grow, as I carry the lessons you taught me into my own life, I realize that the greatest gift you gave me wasn't just your love. It was the ability to love fiercely and unconditionally, to understand that family isn't defined by who is present, but by the love we choose to give. You showed me what it means to be a mother, not just in the good moments, but in the moments that tested your limits. You are the embodiment of what it means to love without reservation, to give without hesitation, and to sacrifice without asking for anything in return. This tribute is my way of honoring you, my way of giving back the love that you've so freely given me. It's my way of saying thank you for all the little things, for every hug, every word of encouragement, every sacrifice that no one else saw. It's my way of acknowledging the woman you are, the love you gave me, and the powerful impact you've had on my life. Thank you for being the mother who gave me the strength to face the world, the mother who made sure I always knew I was loved, and the mother who, even in the hardest times, never stopped fighting for me. I love you more than words can express, and I always will. Your daughter. Chapter 1. Not knowing as a child, I never questioned the absence of a man I was told was my father. His name existed in the stories whispered by others, in photographs where his face was either too distant or too blurry to feel real. To me, it was just another piece of the world I couldn't quite understand, but didn't think much of either. I knew I was missing something, but I couldn't name it. It was like a puzzle with a missing piece, one that didn't seem all that important until you tried to finish the picture. I remember the other kids asking about their fathers, showing off photos, or laughing about how they played catch or rode bikes together. Their words seemed like foreign sounds to me, filled with a warmth I didn't understand, like a language I hadn't yet learned. I would nod along, pretending I understood, because the truth was too confusing to explain. How could I miss someone I had never known? But curiosity, even then, found a way to sneak in. I'd search for glimpses of him in the faces of strangers or ask my mother the rare question, "Where is he?" But the answers were always the same, vague and evasive. He was somewhere out there, and yet not really. There was a heaviness in her voice that I didn't quite grasp. It was as if the very mention of him was something too delicate to touch. Little did I know then that not knowing was shaping me in ways I couldn't yet understand. The emptiness, the unanswered questions, would later carve out spaces in my heart, spaces I would try to fill with other things, friends, achievements, and dreams. But the impact was already being made. It was just too early to see it. I never knew his name, not really. The word father felt foreign, like a label for a role I couldn't quite understand. Sometimes I wondered if my mother ever said his name aloud, or if it was something she had locked away, never to be spoken of again. I'd hear it from others, in passing, but it always felt like a shadow, a word with no substance. His name didn't carry weight in our home. There were no stories of his laugh, no memories of his embrace, just silence. And that silence was a constant presence, like an invisible wall between me and a piece of myself that I could never reach. There were moments when I could feel it, the space where he should have been. A small but unshakable ache, like a whisper in my chest that never stopped. I longed for something I couldn't name, something I didn't fully understand. I would watch other fathers pick their children up from school, their arms around their little ones, their faces bright with love and pride. And in those moments, a quiet longing would stir within me, a hollow ache that made no sense at all, but a longing nonetheless. It was a kind of quiet desperation. I'd sit alone in my room, staring out the window, wondering where he was, what he looked like, and what it would feel like to hear him say my name, to have him wrap me in his arms and tell me I was his. But there was nothing, just the stillness. I became accustomed to it, to live with that unspoken emptiness. And in time, I learned to fill it with the sound of my own thoughts, to live in silence. The other children didn't ask about my father anymore. It wasn't something I spoke of, and over time it seemed to fade from their curiosity. I learned to smile and nod when they asked about their dads. I learned to live in a world where everyone else had someone, and I was left with a quiet longing, too deep to explain. It wasn't until I was older that I realized the silence had left its mark. The longing never quite went away, but I had learned to push it aside, to ignore the ache in my chest. But somewhere, deep down, I knew I wasn't whole. I wasn't whole because there was a piece of me that had never been filled. A piece that, for reasons I could never fully understand, had been left empty. As time passed, the longing began to shift into something heavier, something darker. It wasn't just about the absence anymore, it was about what that absence represented. A child's mind, so full of wonder and hope, began to turn that absence into quiet sadness. I couldn't help but feel that I wasn't enough. Enough to keep him here, enough to deserve his love, enough to matter. There were nights when the silence would press down on me so hard it felt like the air itself had thickened. I'd lie in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to push back the tears that threatened to fall. I didn't even know what I was mourning exactly. His presence, his love, or just the fact that he was out there somewhere and yet so far from me. The sadness felt like a weight on my chest, heavy and suffocating, and it seemed to follow me everywhere. It was in the quiet moments when I was alone, in the empty spaces at the dinner table, in the laughter of friends whose fathers were there for them. There was a part of me that couldn't help but wonder, was I not lovable enough to stay for? Was I not enough for him to want to be here with me? And with that thought came the hardest part, the feeling of being unloved. Not because anyone told me so, but because it felt true. How could I not feel that way when there was no one to hold me? No one to remind me that I was cherished, that I mattered. I began to wonder if love was something you had to earn, something that could be withheld if you weren't good enough, worthy enough. I learned early on that love was a fragile thing, one that could slip through your fingers without warning, and in my case it had. His absence was the proof of it, the proof that I wasn't enough to keep him close. It made me feel small, invisible, as if I was a mere afterthought in his life. The emptiness deepened, and I began to carry it with me like an old coat that was too big for my shoulders. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shake the sadness. I couldn't make the tears go away, and I couldn't fill the void. There were days when I could push it down, ignore it, and pretend that I didn't care. But it was always there, lurking just beneath the surface, waiting to pull me under. Not knowing continued. Over time, the sadness softened. It wasn't that it went away, but I grew used to it. The ache became a part of me, like an old scar that I had learned to live with. I stopped asking questions that had no answers and stopped searching for a piece of the puzzle that didn't fit. I began to accept things for what they were, quietly, reluctantly. It was as though I had come to a silent understanding with myself. I wasn't going to have the father others had. I wasn't going to hear his voice in the middle of the night when I was scared, and I wasn't going to feel his arms around me when the world felt too big. That realization wasn't something I was ready for at first, but over time I let go of the hope that maybe one day he would show up, apologize for the years he had been gone, and make it all right. Instead, I focused on what I had, the love of my mother, the quiet strength she gave me, the little bits of joy scattered between the sadness. I learned to create my own sense of family, to lean on the people who did care and who showed up when it mattered. They may not have been the father I dreamed of, but they were enough. There was still a gap, though, a part of me that remained empty, like a well that had dried up long ago. But I learned to stop longing for it to be filled by someone else. I could no longer look at the world and expect it to make sense, or for people to give me what I felt was owed to me. Life wasn't fair, and I was learning that I couldn't spend all my time chasing after something I would never have. I began to accept the silence. It wasn't a loud, unbearable thing anymore, it was just there. A presence that had always been with me, one I could no longer fight. And slowly I started to find peace in it. Not because I liked it or wanted it, but because it was all I knew. I had learned to live in the quiet, to let go of what I couldn't change. It wasn't easy. Some days, the loneliness crept in again, reminding me of the absence that was always there, waiting to take me by surprise. But on those days, I reminded myself that this was my life. This was my story, and I had to make it mine. As the years went on, the sadness, though still present, became more of a shadow I learned to live with. It didn't dominate my thoughts anymore, but it was always there, quiet, constant. The absence became something I no longer felt the need to understand. I couldn't control it, and I couldn't change it. I could only accept it, even if that acceptance came with the bitter taste of resignation. I learned to look at other families and not feel that pang of jealousy, that longing for something I would never have. I saw fathers walking their daughters down the street, holding their sons' hands, and for a moment a part of me would ache. But instead of allowing that ache to consume me, I simply let it be. It was a fleeting feeling, like a wave that would rise and fall without warning. I didn't fight it anymore. I had spent too many years trying to fight things I couldn't change. What I could change, what I could control, was how I chose to live my life despite what was missing. I started to focus on what I did have, my mother's unwavering love, and the family and friends who had shown up for me in the quietest ways. They may not have been the ones I wanted, but they were enough. They loved me in a way that they knew how, and that was something I had to learn to accept as enough. There were days when the emptiness would feel loud again, when I would wish for something more, for someone more. But those days were fewer now. I had grown, not just in age, but in understanding. I learned that love doesn't always come in the way you expect. Sometimes it comes in the form of kindness from strangers, a smile from a friend, or the steady presence of someone who chooses to stay. I could fill the spaces with these moments, with these people who saw me for who I was, and who loved me without needing anything in return. I no longer sought the approval or affection of someone who didn't want to be there. I had finally realized that the love I needed was the one I could give to myself. That, perhaps, was the hardest lesson of all. But it was a lesson I had to learn if I was ever going to move forward, and if I was ever going to stop allowing the absence of one person to define my worth. And so I let go. I let go of the dreams of a father who might never come, and I let go of the need to understand why. I accepted that I was who I was, not because of him, but despite him. I was enough, just as I was.